Hey, Reign of Guilds players, Keith here. We're going to break down every single vocation and talk about what I think each vocation needs to feel powerful and fun. Before we get into my list, I want to let you know that the developers have given me a unique opportunity. They said that if we give them questions, they will answer them directly to me. So if you have questions that you want the developers to answer, send them to me, write them in the comments to this video, and I'll make another video once I get the answers back. So let's start with the Archage. The Archage has a bonus to mana, magic attack, fire, and air. The Archage has a penalty to health and physical defense, magical defense, and endurance. What this means is the ArchMAGE is the prototypical glass cannon. They sling lots of spells. Those spells hit really hard, but they are very, very easy to kill. ArchMages also have Levitate, which allows you to literally fly off the ground. The thing is, if you're even 1 inch off the ground, enemies won't try to attack you at all. So how would I fix ArchMages? Well, I would make it so their Levitate actually also doubles as a run speed buff. I would want to make it so if you're levitating, you can get out of melee range pretty quick, and also if you just want to move fast, you could levitate too. That being said, if you are in melee range, I would make it so melee attackers can hit you and range people can attack you anyway. Another thing that I would give the ArchMage is an ability to stop time. If you talk to the Vocation trainer, it actually talks about the fact that ArchMages can stop time. And if you think about comic books and movies and things, people who can manipulate time, it usually manifests in one of two ways. Either they are fast or everyone around them is slow. So that being said, I would either give them a ginormous haste or give everyone around them a slow, or perhaps both. But while this is happening, I would make the ArchMage even more susceptible to damage. So maybe give them a 50% haste, make everyone around them a 50% slow, but make it so they take 100% more damage. Something like that. Make it a real, oh no, I hope this works button. Moving right along, let's talk about the Assassin. The Assassin's an interesting one. The Assassin gets a bonus to health, physical attack, magical defense, dexterity, accuracy, and water magic. The Assassin also takes a penalty to strength, endurance, earth, air, and fire magic. Presently, the Assassin can also hide, and the way the Assassin hide works is you hide until you take an action, regardless if that's cast a spell, or try to debuff an enemy, or try to attack yourself. Okay, so how would I fix the Assassin? Well, I would make it so their hide actually has 2 charges. So you could think, well, this Assassin is going to hide, attack, and then hide again. I would also make it so when they come out of hide, they get a pretty substantial damage buff, maybe even something like 200%. But I would also make it while they are hidden, they also take 200% damage as well. The last thing I would do with assassins is I would give them poisons, but if you think about what an assassin is, an assassin really intelligently thinks about their target, right? So I would make their poisons either universal, physical, or magic based. In other words, I know who I'm trying to kill, and so I'm going to use this particular poison. So a physical poison would not work very well against a magical opponent. Or I might even make it more specific. Maybe make it vocation based. I have a Druid poison, and I also have a thief poison and a Necromancer poison, and so forth. I want to reward the assassin who knows his target and does a lot of studying on that target before he goes in for the kill. Moving right along, we have the Barbarian. Now this is probably one of the more fleshed out classes that are currently in the game. A Barbarian gets a bonus to physical attack and strength. But the Barbarian does take a lot of penalties to both physical and magical defense and dexterity, accuracy, endurance, and all kinds of magic. Now, I don't have too much to say about this class. The only thing I can say is I've heard that some of the skills are a little buggy. They have the ability to do range damage with their melee skills in telekinesis. They can also roar, which disarms people and also freezes stamina. And lastly, they can go berserk, which greatly raises their attack, but actually gives them less defense. And as long as all of these things work, it kind of feels exactly like a Barbarian for me. So I actually like this. I just think that there are some bugs with these skills that the dev team needs to address. And if they do, they're pretty barbarian-like. I actually like this one a lot. Next up, we have the Blacksmith. The Blacksmith is a pretty stacked class. They have a bonus to health, physical defense, magical defense, strength, endurance, and air magic. The Blacksmith takes a penalty to mana, dexterity, accuracy, earth, water, and fire magic. Now, the Blacksmith currently has the ability to make armor, of course. It also has a AoE ability that I believe drains the stamina of everyone around you. So, not that useful, but he's one of the only people that both has any sort of physical ability and can craft anything. Something that I really think would make the Blacksmith really stand out is give them an ability that gives everybody in their party additional magic and physical defense. And if you want to make it really snazzy, have it take a component that a blacksmith can build when he's crafting. Moving on to the Crusader is the magic tank. So it takes a bonus to strength and endurance, magical defense, earth, and water magic. But the Crusader takes a penalty to physical defense, dexterity, accuracy, air, and fire magic. The Crusader already has two great abilities. One gives the Crusader a haste that makes him so he can swing his weapon even faster, as well do any other action. Also, the ability to teleport, and where the Crusader lands in that teleport, it slows everyone around him. So the Crusader's already in a really good place, to be honest, but I think if I did anything, I would have him lean into his class fantasy even more. Make it so that if he is around mages, he's draining that mana while he's getting healed, perhaps. Maybe make that ability work if he has very little armor on, or maybe have it work even better the less armor he has on. So really make him the tank for mages. Moving along to the Druid. The Druid is a class that's not in a great space right now. They get bonuses to health, mana, physical defense, magical defense, endurance, earth, and water. Druids take penalties to physical attack, magical attack, strength, dexterity, accuracy, air, and water. So long story short, these folks are not hitting hard at all. So for Druids, these folks are supposed to be the support class, and I've heard people say, oh, give them a pet, and you could. But I think they would actually do better off with forms. So what I would personally do, I would make it so first, all of the buffs that the Druid does lasts for 3 times as long. Make it so they are the supreme buffers of the game. Also, when it comes to forms, I would make it so their stats from magic apply to their physical stats instead when they are in wolf form or maybe bear form or whatever it is. So in other words, their earth becomes their strength stat, their air becomes their dexterity stat, their fire becomes their endurance stat, and so forth. And if that sounds too overpowered, I would make it so changing into a wolf was really difficult, and it could only be done once every 20 minutes. Only once in every 20 minutes could you go from man to wolf or wolf to man, and by doing so, you are left with maybe a debuff for a minute of like low health or something. Make it so changing is really painful and difficult, and you can't go back and forth very often. But when you do, you're a magic class that suddenly turns into a melee class. Moving on to the Enchanter. Enchanter is another crafty class that, as the name implies, can enchant things. Also, the Enchanter gets bonuses to physical defense, magical defense, and all kinds of magic. However, Enchanters do take penalties to health, mana, physical attack, and magical attack. So for these guys, I think it would be interesting if they could give the whole party a buff that gives all of their attributes higher values. So make it so they give the entire party more strength, dexterity, accuracy, endurance, earth, air, water, and fire skill. I think that would be really cool and unique. Moving on to the Gladiator. The Gladiator is a great melee class. They get bonuses to strength, dexterity, and endurance. However, they do take penalties to accuracy and all kinds of magic. Now, Gladiators already have their hit legs ability, which makes it so every time a Gladiator hits you, as long as the buff is on, your stamina gets drained, which makes it very powerful for one-on-one duels. If it was me, I would give them a couple of other abilities. First off, if you talk to the Vocation trainer, they talk about gladiators like throwing nets out and things, so I would flesh all that out. Make it so they can throw a net out and slow someone at range, so they can close the distance. I think that would be really cool. I also would probably do something fancy with their dodge mechanic. Make it so their dodge maybe has iframes, or their dodge takes less stamina, or give them a double dodge. I would really lean into this sort of, I'm not going to wear a lot of armor, but I'm an agile fighter that can really mess people up. The next up is the Hunter. Now, the Hunter currently takes bonuses to dexterity, accuracy, earth magic, air magic, and water. And Hunters take penalties to physical defense, magical defense, strength, and endurance. So the Hunter already has the ability where he can shoot 2 crossbow bolts at the same time, which is super powerful. One thing I think the Hunter needs is the real ability to hunt. So what I would personally do is give the Hunter a sort of tracking window where it shows everyone around them, and they could double click on someone's name from a list, and then the game would tell the Hunter exactly what direction that person or enemy was. So maybe you'll have a list of things, you double click on bear, and the game says there is the bear to the west, or the bear is southwest. And maybe you're trying to hunt down a particular player, so you're saying king is north, right? Or Lordus is to the west. Definitely not Keithington or Keith Tankerus, you would never hunt me, but you get the point. Let them hunt and let them find their quarry. I think that would be really, really cool. Next up is Inquisitor, and this is another one that I think is in a really, really good spot. They take penalties to strength, dexterity, and accuracy, as well as water magic, but they get bonuses to magic defense, earth, and fire magic. These guys, the lore is cool and their existing abilities is cool. They essentially get a whole bunch of purges so they can take debuffs, or should I say buffs or debuffs, off of their enemies. They can also make it so their enemies cannot use weapons. They have essentially dropped their hands, kind of like a bear roar in a way. I think this is really, really cool. I think they need to flesh out those skills and make it so they're bug-free and work and feel great, but the idea is there. I think Inquisitor's heading in a real good direction. Moving on to the Master of Steel, kind of the opposite of the Crusader in a lot of ways. The Master of Steel takes a bonus to physical defense, strength, dexterity, earth, water, and fire magic. But the Master of Steel takes a penalty to magic defense, accuracy, endurance, and air. So the Master of Steel already has an ability, and it works pretty well, where he gets a tremendous amount of physical and magical defense. Now, the only thing with this is while this bonus is active, the Master of Steel cannot dodge or run or jump, but he's also really hard to kill. The Vocation trainer already says that the Master of Steel is a two-handed specialist, so I would give the Master of Steel more abilities regarding using two hands. So regardless if that's a special attack, maybe sort of a spinning around attack, or just being able to use a two-handed weapon more effectively, faster, more damage, but I would give him something along those lines. I would also want the Master of Steel to have some sort of taunt that works really well in PvP. Maybe while he's taunting people, those enemies do much less damage against other enemies besides the Master of Steel. That's one option. Or maybe if the game engine would allow it, while taunting, you can't actually target or even see his allies. Something like that. I would want the Master of Steel to be a taunting machine, and I would want them to somehow make that work in PvP. And now moving on to the Necromancer. The Necromancer takes a bonus to magic attack, physical defense, magical defense, endurance, earth, and water. But the Necromancer takes a penalty to health, mana, strength, dexterity, accuracy, air, and fire. The Necromancer already has an ability called Plague, which essentially can put a dot on the enemy, but it can spread to other enemies or players or even the Necromancer himself. The thing with the Necromancer is the Vocation trainer does say that the Necromancer has the ability to resurrect his or her allies, and I think they should add that to the game. Also, I think everybody expects the Necromancer to have a pet. So what I would do is simply, again, give the Necromancer the ability to resurrect their allies, but also to raise a permanent pet as well as a temporary pet. So he would have 2, in my opinion. And I'm not sure how I would play this out. Maybe the permanent pet would just be a damage pet or just be a tanky pet. But I think the temporary pet should be the opposite. And again, I don't know if it's permanent tankiness and then the temporary one is DPS or the other way around. But I would make it so they have 2 pets. One is up all the time. One is only up for like 30 seconds or so, like a quick resurrection. But I think that would be really, really neat. Allow the Necromancer to be constantly resurrecting their enemies to turn the tides of battle. I think would be really cool. Okay, now we're doing the real stuff. We're moving on to the Thief, and I feel like the Thief could have warranted his own video, but here we are. First off, the Thief takes a penalty to health and mana and strength, endurance, air, water, and fire magic. The Thief takes a bonus to dexterity, accuracy, and earth magic. And it's worth saying that they just changed this, so this could change again. Really, all of these could change again. But I imagine if anything changes strongly, the Thief is going to change strongly. But this is the current state. Also, when the game launched, the Thief could simply run up to someone and steal money. And also, the Thief could run around invisible, and while he was sprinting, he would be invisible. And he could also reload his crossbow. That has been walked back. Now, the Thief cannot load his crossbow while he is running or invisible. And also, the Thief can only steal very, very little money. It's called pickpocketing now. It's literally gone from about 5,000 to 5. So how would I fix the Thief? Well, I would let him steal a lot of money again, probably even more than before, a whole lot of money. But I would make it so if anyone saw him do that, it would not work, and he would take half the karma loss that he would have taken if he killed somebody. So in black zones, nothing would happen, but in town, a whole lot of karma would be lost. And it would happen if anyone saw him steal. So right now, the Thief can pickpocket you right in front of your face. If you see a thief steal from you, or a player sees a thief steal from you, or even an NPC sees a thief steal from you, that would result in a ginormous karma loss. And I think that would make the Thief feel a lot better when it comes to actually stealing. Last but not least, the Weaponsmith. And my goodness, when it comes to stats, this thing is stacked. Weaponsmiths get bonuses to health, attack, physical defense, magical defense, strength, dexterity, endurance, and air magic. Weaponsmiths only take penalties to accuracy, air magic, water magic, and fire magic. My ideas behind the Weaponsmith is I would allow the Weaponsmith a new ability beyond the idea of him making weapons, which he can do now. I would allow the Weaponsmith to buff the entire party's attack. Probably physical and magical attack, but definitely physical attack. A bonus, I might call it his whetstone ability. I think that would be cool. So I think if they implemented all of these changes, all the classes would feel more fun, more powerful, unique, and in most cases, not overpowered or anything, but just really, really fun to play. So what do you think? Any of these you agree with? Any of these you disagree with? Let me know in the comments, and let me reiterate. If you ask the developers a question in the comments of this video below, I will approach the developers with those questions, and I will be making a video over the next couple of weeks with the answers that I get from the developers. So if you've ever wanted to ask the developer something, leave them in the comments of this video. And hey, thanks for watching. I apologize for my weird voice in this video. My kiddos got me sick, and I'm doing the best I can. But hey, enjoy Reign of Guilds, and I hope to see you in game. Later, guys.